All right, folks, what we're going to do today is we're going to figure out how to find the prime factorization of a number. In order to be able to do this, we have to understand a couple of the terms that we're looking at. First one we see is prime. A prime number is any number that cannot be broken down into smaller factors. For the example, if we looked at the number 3, the only way that we could multiply and get an answer of 3 is by multiplying 1 times 3. The only thing we can do, again, is multiplying the number itself times 1. Another number that's also a prime number is 11. The only way I can multiply is by multiplying the number 1 times the number 11. What I'd like you to do right now is go ahead and pause the tape, and I want you to think of another number that could be considered prime. The only thing you can do is multiply it by itself and times the number 1. The opposite of a prime number would be a composite number. Now, these numbers have multiple factors that you might be able to find in order to multiply and get this number as an answer. For example, you could come up with the number 12. 12 has a few different ways you can get it. You can multiply 3 times 4. You could also multiply 2 times 6. Now, since we have found these two ways, we've kind of proven the fact that it's not a prime number. If it was a prime number, the only thing we would be able to come up with is 1 times itself. Another example of a composite number could be the number 30. A few different ways we could do that. We could do 15 times 2. We could do 10 times 3. We could even do 6 times 5. What I'd like you to do right now is think of maybe 2 or 3 different composite numbers that you can think of, and maybe even find the factors that you multiply to get those numbers. So what we're going to do today, we're going to figure out the prime factorization, meaning the smallest possible numbers we can multiply to get an answer. The way we're going to do this is by use of what is called a factor tree. Now, the factor tree kind of is a very easy visual way for you to find the prime factorization, because you can see the numbers that are being multiplied and you see how it branches out, and hopefully kind of see why we call it a tree. So this works for any number that's composite. So if we started off with the number 24, what we're going to do is we're going to draw some little tree branches. Now, since we have 2 ends here, we're looking for 2 numbers that we can multiply to get the answer of 24. There's a lot of different ways I can get 24. And for this, I'm going to start with 6 and 4. Now, I'm not done here. The idea isn't to find just one way that I can multiply. The idea is to break down each of these factors into the smallest ways that you can multiply them to get back to your answer of 24. So I continue to look at my factors that I created, and I want to ask myself, now I'm looking at the number 6. Is there a way I can multiply and get an answer of 6? Yeah, I can multiply 2 times 3. Now I want to look at the number of 4. Is there 2 numbers I can multiply to get an answer of 4? And you should be thinking 2 times 2. So now what I do is I go down to my next level of branches, and I would look at the number 2. Now, the only way that I can get an answer of 2 is to multiply 1 times 2. That makes 2 a prime number. Now, we already discussed the number 3 and how that's a prime number. And here we see the number 2 repeated again and again. Now, the reason I circled these is because I'm telling myself that these are prime numbers, and at this point I can stop with that number. The only thing I can do is to multiply something times 1, which I would continue to repeat over and over and over again. So we don't want to do that. Now that I've found all the prime numbers and I've gotten all the way down to the bottom of my branches, I'm going to use each of these factors that I circled. So I'm going to start with 2, and I have another 2 over here, and I have another 2 over here, and I have a 3. Now, prime factorization, the whole factor part, means that factors are numbers that you use in a multiplication problem. So I'm going to multiply these terms together, and what I'm hoping is that I will come up back with my answer that I started with of 24. So let's give it a shot, see what we get. Start off with 2 times 2, which would give us 4. 4 times 2, which would give us 8. And 8 times 3, which leads us right back to 24. Perfect way to start. Got us right back to the beginning, right where we wanted. Let's go ahead and try this with another composite number. Maybe try something a little bit different. Let's go with 54. And I'm looking at 54. Again, I'm starting off and I'm thinking, what 2 numbers can I multiply to get an answer of 54? First thing that comes to my head is 9 times 6. And I continue to look at each of the factors. Now I'm looking at the number 9. Only way I can get 9 is to go 3 and 3. And the only way I can get 6 is with 2 times 3. Now I'm going to look at the next row of factors. I know that 3 is prime, so I'm going to circle it. I know that that one is still prime, and the number 2 is also prime. I'm going to write down each of the terms that I came up with. I like to put these in numeric order, so I always start with the lowest term. The other thing you want to make sure is that you include each of the factors that you just found. So I have a 2, and then I have 3 3s. So again, multiplying these terms out, which means that I should end up with 54. Let's double check our work. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. And if I were to work it out, 18 times 3, right back to 54. Alright guys, now it's your turn to practice. I'm going to give you 3 composite numbers, and I'd like you to try the prime factorization, see if you get the hang of it. If not, you can always go back through our video, double check, look at my steps again, and see where you can maybe re-watch, take a few more notes. So why don't you go ahead and try? Use the number 48 and factor that out. Let's also do the number 30, and let's end with the number 25. So go ahead, give that a try, see if you grasp this task successfully, and then also make sure if you're not sure how to do something, make sure to complete your question section. Write down your question, anything you might have didn't make sense, something you want to ask clarification on. All right, guys, enjoy, and I will see you tomorrow in class.